You're listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, where we explore the connection between a fit body and positive mental health. And our big mission? It's to help 10,000 runners to develop fitter minds in the next 2 years. I'm your host, Michelle Frost. Let's get moving. Welcome to this episode of the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, where we talk to Felicity Hoy. She describes running as her antidepressant. In fact, she says, as long as she's running, she's happy. Enjoy.
Got it.
Today on Fit Mind, Fit Body, we just heard the recording sound, which is great, but I'd like to welcome Felicity Hoy. Hello, Felicity. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. It's so good to talk to you. You've been on my list. I've got a long list of people that I know who are runners, who I know will be really fun to talk to. And you've been on my list. And I'm so glad that we are eventually catching up here on the little screen, which is will be in people's ears instead of it just out there on the track, because often I run into you in a race or two.
Yes, usually.
That's usually where I see you, which is so anyway, as I said, I'm excited to have a chat with you and learn more about your running story. Let's start from the beginning. Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Emerald in Victoria, so where Puff and Billy is.
Yes. So you're like, how long has that been? Have you been able to race Puffing Billy?
I have not raced Puff and Billy. I want to.
How long has that been a thing? Has it been like a thing for like?
It's been
feels like a long time.
My whole life.
Yeah.
I remember my mum, when I was a kid, used to get so mad because they'd shut the streets down and her sister was always running in it. And every year she'd be like, why are they shutting down the streets? It's just a foot race.
That's hilarious.
So I really want to do it.
So how come you haven't? It's just a random question.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't have a reason to have not done it. I just haven't.
Like, I grew up on King Island, and most people here in Tassie know that there is a race on King Island, which started it started maybe 5, 6, maybe 8 years after I had left the island, but I'd started running by the time. And the person who started was a guy that I grew up with, a neighbour.
Cool.
But I have not run that race yet either.
That's on my list for next year. It didn't fit in this year.
The Imperial?
Yeah.
Oh, so you'll probably run it and I still won't run it. Let's see.
And you'll probably beat me to Puff and Billy.
Yeah, I'll go do Puffing Billy. It won't take as long. Anyway, that's a funny thing. All right. Did you grow up with any siblings? Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have 4 older sisters.
Oh, wow. So you're the baby of all girls.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my oldest sister is 16 years older than me. And my oldest niece is 2 years younger than me.
Wow, that's a lovely spread.
Yeah. It's fun.
In another lifetime, I worked at Centrelink in my 20s, between finishing my university degree. And I used to see lots of people. I used to work in the family allowance section and used to see lots of people who would obviously trying to have the other sex, and that you would have like all boys, like 5 or 6 boys or 5 or 6 girls. And I often would wonder if they're trying to.
Dad often jokes that he gave up at me and just made me his boy. So I had all the Tonka trucks. My older sister did as well, but I had Tonka trucks. I fished with him. I shot with him. Lots of outdoorsy stuff. I remember crashing his van into the horse jumps while my sister was at Pony Club.
So you were the stand-in tomboy, and it worked.
It was fun.
Which has probably followed you through into your adult life, probably all the things that you like. Yeah,
mostly, except for the pink.
So what was it like to be you when you were a kid? What was that like to be the youngest? And I guess Emerald is a bit country, and you just talked about horse floats and things. What was that like growing up there?
It was interesting. I loved Emerald. It's a beautiful little town. Everyone knew everyone. So when I did start running, I always felt safe because I'd never go more than a K without a house of someone that I knew.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a bit like King Island.
That was really cool. On the flip side, when I because I had an eating disorder, when I had that, everyone knew about it.
Yeah.
So it was like you couldn't get away, and that
Yeah.
was pretty hard. But
Yeah, that's a more community thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you then when you had the eating disorder?
17.
Okay. And that's when everything, when you don't
Yeah.
want
You
everyone
don't
to know
want
your
everyone
business.
knowing.
You just, yeah, it's pretty hard. Oh. And so how long were you in Emerald for?
Until I was 24-ish.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, and at school, tell me, Felicity, did you do a lot of sport?
No. I played netball.
Yeah.
Because all my sisters played netball, so I played netball until I was, I think 15, 16.
Yep.
And I did cadets, so I was in Army cadets. But other than that, I wasn't a big sports person.
What about your siblings?
They all played netball.
Yep. So it was a netball thing.
Yeah, we had a netball team. So when I was an adult, we had a mixed team of all my sisters and all of their partners. So it was a lot of fun.
Amazing. That's awesome. What about, you were talking about horses a minute ago?
Yeah,
in
my
Emerald.
sister had horses, so I'd build the
Okay.
jumps with Dad.
Yeah.
And my sister had a pony named Willow and one named Penny. And we housed them with a donkey called Daniel, who I really liked. Daniel was my little dude.
Oh.
I'm allergic to horses though, so I just built the jumps.
That's a shame. But
was
you
fun.
weren't allergic to donkeys, I assume.
Well, I'm also allergic to dogs, and I have 3 of those. And I'm allergic to cats, and I've always wanted one. So I really,
You don't worry about the sneezing
No.
or whatever your
it was
whatever the
just sneezing
symptoms
and
are.
itching
Sneezing.
eyes. Nothing antihistamines can't fix.
Oh.
I'd still ride a horse if I could, like if I had
Oh.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So you didn't do a lot of sport apart from, netball at school.
Yeah.
When you left school, what did you do?
I worked at the Commonwealth Bank.
Yeah.
For
In Emerald?
years. No,
is there-
in the city.
Okay.
So at one point we moved to Caulfield for about a year while Mum and Dad were building a new house in Emerald, like at the other side of town.
Yeah.
And I got a job up in the Combank in the city.
Yeah.
And then I went to the one in Boronia, and then I went to Knox. And then I decided I didn't like it and went to uni.
So
didn't like the sales.
Did you go to uni when you're like 20?
How old would have been 21 when I started uni, I think.
And what did you study?
Occupational therapy.
And you finished that? Shouldn't say obviously.
Kind of. So I ended up taking a Bachelor of Human Science, and I went on and did my postgrad in human nutrition.
Oh, wow. And did you work in that? That's what you worked in when you left uni?
No, I now work for my husband. So Josh and I moved to Tassie. So if I'd stayed in Melbourne, I could have started a nutrition business. But down here, we don't really have the same
setup
environment. Yeah. And I tried for a little bit, but then we had 2 kids.
Yeah.
And it kind of just got a bit hard. So Josh started his business about 3 years ago, and I came across and started working for him about 2 years ago.
And he's a physio.
He's an occupational therapist.
Occupational therapist.
So I use my AHA certificate and I do appointments for him. He tells me what to do when I go and do it.
Oh, that's nice.
And I book his appointments for him and tell him where to go. So
it all works.
Yeah.
Where did you meet? Where did you guys meet?
Uni.
Of course, in Melbourne, obviously.
Yeah.
In Victoria. Yeah. What uni did you go to in Melbourne?
Monash. Yeah.
That's where my daughter is. Monash.
So I used to take him running, so we were friends, and I'd run with him on and off.
That's nice.
It was good fun.
So I see this a picture of you growing up in a sort of country, small town environment. Did a bit of office work, I guess you can say, banking work, and then went to uni. And then eventually met a fella while you're at uni, and then you're both moved over here a few years ago into Tasmania, and in between, of course, you started running, you've had children and done all the
Yep.
other things that life throws at us. I
Yep.
take it. So tell me, where did your running start, Felicity?
So initially, when I was in that transition period, when I was at the bank and I hated it and I didn't know what I wanted to do, I just knew it wasn't that. I actually looked at joining the police force.
Yeah.
And to do that, I needed to be able to run, I think it was 4K or 5K. It wasn't very far. And so I did that. So I started training for that on the treadmill. I was going to the gym 2 hours most nights anyway at that point. I just liked it. I liked the atmosphere up there. And so I sort of started running on the treadmill a bit. And then I signed up for the half marathon at Melbourne.
Yeah.
And the first thing I ever beat my older sister in. So I think she ran about 2 hours and I ran 1:43 or something. Like, it wasn't a lot, but I beat her. And it was the first time I'd ever beaten her. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this sport now.
I must be good at this.
Yeah. So I went, all right, I'll sign up for a marathon. Oh, I can't find a marathon till next October. I'm not waiting that long. 55 Ks isn't that much further. So I signed up for that, came second, and went,
wow.
Maybe I'm not bad at this sport. So I went and did an 80.
So this was all, what year was all of this?
2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
And these ones were all like road ones? Is that they were all road?
So the first one I did was Frankston to Portsea.
Yeah.
So that was road, and it was a miserable day, and it was like hailing and it was pouring down with rain. I'd borrowed my mum's coat that just was not suited for running. Massive headwind. It was a disaster, and I loved it. And then the next one was Yuyangs, which is up in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only 3 girls, so I came third, but I came third.
Not the point.
It counts.
Wow.
And so I did that one, and then I did Great Ocean Walk, which was my first 100, and that was a lot of fun as well.
And you'd literally only been running for a year or so or whatever when you were doing these?
Yeah, about 2 years by the time I did my first 100, I reckon.
Can you remember what you were feeling when you were doing those? Like, was it what am I doing? Or is it like, this is so much fun?
It was a bit of, this is so much fun, a bit of therapy for myself, a bit of just tuning out. It was awesome. Like, all of my training, mum and dad would go away for like 6 months. So I was living in this massive house on my own.
Yeah. And
I'd get lonely. I'd just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to go for a run then. And I'd come home like 5 hours later, and I'm going to have dinner and go to bed.
So did you have plans? Like, how did you not overtrain? Or maybe you did.
I did.
I don't know. On reflection.
Have been really, really lucky in that I went from running virtually nothing to 2 days before I did my half marathon, I ran a half marathon on the treadmill because I needed to make sure I could do it.
Yeah.
And then I did the half, and within 2 days I was back out running 10, 15 Ks, and my body just accepted that that's what I was doing to it. Yeah. And, touch wood, I've only had one major injury.
Yeah.
Which I ruptured my ankle ligament in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So,
ouch.
But other than that, it's gone. That's what the physio said. He's like, it's gone. You can't do any more damage, so you can run as soon as you can tolerate.
Oh, wow.
So I was lucky in that regard. It was a minor ligament.
Yeah. And did you do that while you were running? Was that like
so I did that in I think it was my second attempt at doing the Great Ocean Walk. Mm-hmm. Josh, my now husband, came up to support me, and I was out of range when I did it too, so I had to walk out on it for 5K and give people his phone number and be like, as soon as you get reception, call him and tell him I've gone back.
Oh, ow.
It's all good.
Yeah, well, you survived. Here you are, and still running.
Yeah,
all doing all the things. So, did it just become a part of your life? That's what it sounds like
pretty much.
To me. Like running just became. This is one of the things I do in my life.
It's, for lack of a better description, it's my antidepressant.
Yeah.
As long as I run, I'm happy. soon as I stop running, I become very, very down.
So how often does it, or under what circumstances can you not run? Like, how's that happened in the last sort of, what is that, 13, 14 years?
So the only 2 times I've gone a significant, well, it wasn't really even a significant period of not running was just after I had both the kids. So with Teddy, with the first one, I got clearance at 3 weeks because it had gotten to the point where if I didn't start running, things were just not going to go so well. So I started, and it was only a K, but it was all I needed. Just needed that.
Yeah, just that.
And I think because I'd had some issues, I'd had about 6 weeks total off then.
Yeah.
With Tolly, I got clearance at 6 days.
Yeah.
So I went and did the park run the week after he was born.
Wow.
So I was meant to walk, but I ran half of it. So friends running past me. Teddy wanted to run, so we ran.
And it didn't cause any long-term issues, obviously.
No, as I said, I've been really, really lucky. I've also been very conscious about doing strength work and all of that sort of stuff to make sure that I don't get injured, because I know that it just
not
doesn't.
a nice place to be.
No. Well, when I did my ankle, Josh made me get a hobby because he said I was just so miserable. It was only like 3 or 4 weeks and I was still on crutches, and I'd ride my bike to uni, he'd hand me my crutches and I'd hop off the bike and like hobble around all day, and then I'd jump back on the bike and ride home because we're living together. He'd drive home with my crutches and meet me there.
Well, that was nice of him. It was nice that you had that ability to be able to, have a crutch looker after her between the bike ride.
Well, I didn't want to ride with them on my back. That would have just looked stupid.
Well, I've just been in Noosa for a few weeks. There's a lot of people with bikes where they put their surfboard on the side. I can imagine them carrying your like on push bikes.
Well, I guess it is possible.
You could put crutches, I'm sure. Anyway, that's probably another story for another day. So, when do you think you first called yourself a runner, Felicity?
I reckon after the first half I did.
Yeah.
I felt like then, like that was it. That was what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And do you feel like you're goal driven when it comes to your running?
Yeah.
So do you often have like an event that you're looking to run?
Usually. Yeah. I can't think of a time where I haven't had an event to do, like on the horizon.
What's in the near future for you at the moment?
I'm hoping to do Cockle Creek in a couple of weeks, 13th of August. So that's a marathon. Well, I think it's the 14th, the Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm signed up for the Tassie Trail Fest miler, but my training hasn't gone to plan yet, so that's okay. I'll still show up. I'll do that, or I'll downgrade to the 100 if I have to, but I don't want to. We'll see how we go.
So how do you train for some of those longer ones? Like, do you have a plan?
I run.
Are you structured? Yeah, like, do you have a structured plan? Some people have on Tuesdays I do this, on Wednesday, Sundays I do the long run.
I get up when everyone is well. I get up and I'll run at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'll try and do 10Ks most days. Yeah. On the days where I can be a bit later home, I'll do 15. And then once a week I'll do a longer run.
Okay.
But so my longer
that's
run,
your sort of every day. That's your every week kind of plan.
Yeah. I don't do speed work.
Yeah.
I don't really focus on anything in particular. I do more like walkabouts.
Yeah.
So if I have a day where I've got nothing on and the kids are at daycare, I'll just disappear and I'm home when I'm home, and whatever distance I did is what I did. There's no structure or goal. It's just, I'm going this way now.
Oh, wow. So you just go explore a bit, like you said. We'll go walkabout. Yeah,
walkabout.
Yeah. And take, these days, it used to be we'd have to make sure we had, money to catch something home, a bus or something, which is a bit harder in Tassie. But now I suppose you just need your phone or whatever, which is
so I have Garmin Pay on my watch. I've got Apple Pay on my phone, and I usually have a card in my pack just in case everything goes flat.
Yeah.
But and an expired driver's license in case someone needs to ID me.
So you don't drive?
Yeah, I drive.
Oh, you do? Oh, so just
It's
an
just my
expired
old
one,
one.
so that you
Yeah.
don't matter
I've
if you
just
lose
kept-
it or anything. That's what I
Yeah,
thought. Oh, wow.
exactly. So my current one stays in my wallet, and just the old
Yeah.
one goes in one of my pockets.
Well, that's a little
Um,
tip just there. I'd never even thought of that. What a good idea.
I never used to run with a phone. Like, I used to just carry my little iPod, and that
Mhm.
was it. No phone, nothing. And I'd disappear, and I'd run nights, and I'd meet strangers on Facebook
Yeah.
that I'd meet in the trails at night.
Oh,
And I
wow.
loved it. And then I met my husband, and he was like, you have to carry a phone. It's not safe.
Oh.
Fine, but I'm turning it off.
That's amazing. So, what you just told me what it looks like for you during the week at the moment, or you're doing how you kind of unstructured but sort of structured at the same time, try and get out most days, etc.
Yeah, I try and run
Um,
every day.
Do you run with other people much?
Sometimes. I've been running probably once to twice a week with other people, depending on who's free, what they're doing.
Yep.
I try and go to buddies, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard with the boys.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's an
Everyone wants
afternoon.
mummy at bedtime.
Yeah. What? That's crazy. They got to have a buddies for that. What is it? Toddler friendly or something?
Yeah. Well, the 3-year-old keeps telling me he'll come to mummy's running group. Like, dude, you can't keep up, and I'm not pushing you.
At least not yet.
Yeah,
Maybe.
another year or two.
Yeah, yeah. A little scooter or something. I saw someone the other day, actually in Noosa, running with two kids, and
Yeah.
so
I'm trying to
he
get
was
him to
running
ride
the
his
two kids
bike,
on scooters.
but he just wants to run like mummy. He doesn't want to ride, he wants to run.
Oh.
And I tried going, if you ride your bike, you can ride while mummy runs. He's like, no, mummy, you can ride while I run.
So, I mean, we often talk on the podcast about children and the influence that we have on kids. And do you ever think about that? Like the positive influence that you are having by demonstrating an adult who's actually going out of their way to be physically fit?
Yeah, we both my husband and I are very conscious of that, I think. And you can see it, like both of our kids love being outside and just doing stuff outside. It doesn't matter if it's raining or whatever, it's outside.
It's like, go do some stuff, go be a runner. Yes. It was one of the things I used to think about quite a bit when I was, young like you and had young kids, and that my kids used to see, their dad basically throw me out of the car or pick me up from somewhere, because in order to fit it in around, your very busy life, you kind of have to do it like that sometimes. It's like, well, I'll run to this place we're all going together, or drop me off before, 10K from home, and I'll run the rest of the way, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And the kids see that. And I think that's quite a good example to give them.
It is. Like, a lot of my influence growing up, all the exercise was about losing weight. So if you weren't, you'd exercise to lose weight, you exercise for that goal, and not just for the joy of exercise. And it took me probably 2 or 3 years to go, hang on, I can just exercise because it's fun. And actually, it was Ultra Marathon Man, the book by Dean Canazis. That was one that made me go, actually, it doesn't have to be about that. It can just be fun.
Yeah. In fact, for you to maintain it and keep doing it, there has to be stuff in it that you enjoy. There has to be something that's sparking off in you. And I suppose to other people who haven't started running yet or haven't found that yet, just knowing that if you continue, you will come to a place where you get some flow, and where things just work for you in a particular training run or whatever it is. And you then kind of chase that a bit. It becomes a thing where you just enjoy it. Yeah, you do a bit. I know when I first started running for quite a few years, it used to be, for me, I'm a bit of an explorer like you, but I'd sit at my desk in an office thinking, where am I going to run today? Where can I go? What direction will I go? That's something new I haven't been before, and I can go and explore, usually the streets of Launceston or up into the gorge or whatever. But you'd have And that would then encourage me to go, oh, that hill's really steep. I haven't run up that one yet, or I want to be able to run up it so I could run down it. So you just do those things in your head to get yourself motivated, which I guess is a question that I ask lots of people. And that is, how do you motivate yourself? So, you thinking in your mind, I want to run most days of the week. I can imagine there'll be some weeks where it's a struggle for you to do that, just because
it can be.
things have panned out that week, and how you're feeling. So how do you get out the door when you're just not feeling it for whatever reason? What makes you get out?
The dog.
That's a good one. Dogs are good.
So
I love that.
Asterix gets really hyper, and it sounds bad but kind of annoying when he hasn't been for a run. He whinges a lot and he's just under my feet, and it's like, all right, dude, out we go.
And do you take him a lot?
Yeah, I run with him most days. So he does everything except my long run.
Okay. So there you go, for everybody out there. Having a dog, especially a breed that is known for its running, is a good idea.
And some days I will just go, all right, I can't be bothered, I'll just run to daycare. And it's 1.5 km from here, but I end up doing about 4 or 5 to get there. It'll take a few detours.
So then if you run to daycare, how do you get the kids back? Do you have a pram at daycare? Oh, okay.
So my in-laws are living next door. So either my mother-in-law meets me and she drives us back, or Josh meets me and drives us back.
Oh, wow. You got it completely sorted, Felicity.
I do.
Sounds amazing. That's awesome. I love it. What are your favorite runs? What type of runs are you enjoying most?
Trails.
Yeah.
I suck at them. I am absolutely terrible at trails. I'm not very fast, but there's just something about the mud. I love it. Nothing beats a run where I come home and there's mud right up my back, and I'm just coated in the stuff, and it's just so nice.
We just love mud.
I do love mud. I've seen all the bugs and the insects and the birds and the animals. I don't know. I just love trails.
It's your favorite?
Yeah.
When you're running on the trails, or when you're running full stop, are you listening to anything? Before you talked about it, taking a little iPod with you. Do you listen to stuff, or?
Yeah, I listen to music. Mm-hmm. So I've got a 400 song playlist on Spotify that has everything from Johnny Cash to Hilltop Hoods on it. It just goes through on shuffle. So it's got some really random songs. I've got a couple of horrible history songs on there now because someone let me add to it when I'd been drinking. And it's very entertaining.
So you pretty much, do you always listen to the music, or do you have a bit of, so you do?
No, I always have music on. I've done a few races where music's banned and I'll cope, but I much prefer running with music on.
And are you a 1 earbud person or a 2?
I wear Aeropex. I wear aftershocks, so the bone conduction ones. So I hear everything around me, which is awesome.
I'm fascinated by those. I don't really know much about them, except I've heard people talk about them. So you can, as you said, hear what's going on around. I know, because I've got the Apple ones, which are not the bone conducting ones, but they have like that transparency mode. You're supposed to be able to hear. But
yeah, I feel like that would annoy me.
Well, you've still got something blocking you.
They're not in your ear. They sit on your cheekbones.
Okay.
So I can run with a friend of mine, or actually Josh wears them as well, and we can both be listening to music and we can still talk.
Yeah.
Like at a normal volume. We're not yelling at each other. Yeah. We're just running along and chatting, and we're both listening to our own separate songs.
Yeah.
And it's just nice.
And I suppose you can hear like traffic or whatever. When you're by yourself, you can hear what's going on around you, so that you're a bit safer.
I ignore everything going on around me. I'm terrible. I just don't even think. I've never felt I felt unsafe once on a run, and that's it. In 5 o'clock in the morning runs, midnight runs, whatever. I've just always, I think I'm just so oblivious that I just don't care.
I'm pretty like that too. It's not till other people remind me later. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I suppose it would have been a good idea
Yeah.
to take a phone with me or something.
Pretty much.
Oh well, too late now, and look, I survived. And I like to think that most people only have the best intentions for other people.
Exactly. That's what I think.
Mm.
Like, no one, and there's also like, I figure there's millions and millions of people in the world. What are the odds of them targeting me?
That's right. Yes. You've got to be sensible, but at the same
Yes.
time, you've got to live your life the way you want to as well,
Yeah.
I think. Otherwise, we could just live in too much fear, which we can't have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I also have the dog too, and he's
That's
protective
true.
of me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I always notice too that when I run, like not at nighttime or earlier in the morning, but during the daylight hours when people can see you and you're running towards them, they often smile. Like I always smile and say hello.
yeah.
And I rarely have people who won't smile back and say hello, if not some funny thing about, oh, you're fitter than me today. Oh, I wish I could do, So
I used to get run forest a lot.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm sure I might have had that before as well. So people they're happy that you're out there doing stuff. They're often out there walking around wherever it is too. So I
find that here, and that's really good. When I lived in Cheltenham in like Melbourne for a while, and no one smiles, and that was like, I didn't enjoy that very much. Like, you'd have an issue on a long run, you'd be throwing up and whatever, and no one would stop. They just keep walking. Like, everyone's off in such a rush to get everywhere. No one's happy. Whereas everyone's just so happy. It's like, it's hard to be sad.
I think it's the city life.
Yeah, it is the city life.
The big cities that tend to be rushing around, as you said.
Yeah.
And that's why people end up moving here. Places like here, when they recognize that everybody in that traffic jam with them is not looking very happy. So why do you keep doing that kind of thing?
Yeah, like why?
Yeah. All right. So we've established that you have had an identity as a runner for some time, since you did your half marathon, and that you have had an injury that put you out for a little while, and you did not like that very much at all because it was very not nice. Do you ever think about your identity as a runner and I just mean in that if for some reason you could at some point not run for longer than, say, just a few weeks to get over an injury, but maybe it was going to be 6 months or something, or who knows, whatever, how you would deal with that? Like, do you think you'd replace it with something else? Like, how would you, if you think to footballers and well, not just footballers, but other professional sports people, and they get to the end of a career quite young, actually. And then they, you often hear in the news them needing to replace that with something else in their life. I also wonder about those of us, me included, who tie a lot of our identity up into our running, something that can be removed from us quite easily.
Yeah.
If we think about it, maybe we'll help ourselves in the future if that ever happens. Like the insurance.
I dabbled in triathlon for a bit, so I could, I guess see myself going into bike riding or something if I had to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I had a bit of a crisis when I had the kids, and I was like, I don't know. I also have, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, so I didn't know whether I'd be able to keep doing ultras. And that has been a huge part of my identity for so long that I was like, what do I do? And now I'm doing it again. I'm happy.
Yeah.
So in that time I started sewing. Yeah. And I started doing like crafting. I make a lot of clothing and stuff for myself and the kids and dogs and whoever else happens to stumble through my area. So I guess there's a little bit, I've replaced somewhat with the crafting side of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm finding it hard to balance the whole, I want to do a long run, but I also want to sew. How do I fit it all in?
Yeah. But you have the ability to take on, other interests and other hobbies, if you like, or whatever, that can be a part of your identity as well going forward.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. How does your rheumatoid arthritis affect your running?
Mostly the fatigue. So, it just knocks me out sometimes. My feet get sore, but I switched to 0 drops when so the first nodule I got was in my big toe.
Yeah.
And before we knew what had caused it, I went into 0 drop shoes because my physio had told me that they would be best, avoid fusing the joint for as long as possible. And that would have been 10, 11 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
It's still not fused. So they've worked.
That's amazing.
But if anything, it just gets a little bit harder to get moving in the morning. When
just
I'm
a
in
bit
a
stiffer.
flare.
And
Yeah, I'm on some good meds now, and it's pretty much in complete remission. So it's not an issue at the moment, but it has been.
Yeah. Oh, I've just been diagnosed in the last 12 months with osteoarthritis, which is pretty normal.
Yeah.
Of course, as people get old, but that hurt. My feet are quite sore in the morning, and I think the running is good for it in because it keeps moving. But then when we do these ultras, there's probably a balance there. Like, when is it good? Becoming
ultras hurt.
So well, that's you do hurt.
You don't do an ultra if you're not at least a little bit of a masochist.
How do you deal with that pain in your head? What's going on in your head in those bigger runs?
I don't know. Nothing.
The music. You just focus on the music.
Yeah, pretty much. I sing.
Yeah.
I sound like an absolute nutcase. When I get really tired, I start singing really loud, and often the songs are really stupid.
But you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. I sing, I dance, I play, I skip.
And that's how you ignore what your body's going through at the time, if it's a particularly painful moment in an ultra, for example.
Yeah. I did when I did my 24-hour, my legs got tired of running, so I skipped a few laps. I was just like, all right, it's different muscles.
And that worked, I'm sure.
It did work.
Absolutely, I can imagine. How long, Felicity, do you think you'll run for in your life?
I reckon I'll be running until the day I die.
Good girl. It sounds like a plan.
I can't imagine my life without running in it.
Yeah. How many pairs of shoes do you have? Running shoes?
That I'm currently using, or
well, that'll do. That we can start with that.
So that I'm currently using, I have 4 pairs of runners.
Excellent. And do you keep your old runners, or do you?
I keep them mostly. I have a cupboard full.
And what do you do with them?
They just sit in my cupboard.
Like, you don't use them.
I just don't have the heart to throw them out.
I had talked to someone last week, I think it was, and they were talking about how they throw theirs out, but they had like 10 or 20 pairs of shoes on the run. Time. And I went, whoa, what? The ultra running as well. And then they had like trail shoes as well as road running shoes, as well as 2 or 3 pairs of each of those, and the different models and different, weather. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Well, I keep a complete outfit along with a pair of trail runners and road runners in the boot of my car, just in case I get the opportunity during the day.
Oh, that's clever. And so have you become really clever at a quick change in the backseat of the car or wherever you're doing it?
Yeah, if you always wear a sports bra, you never have to get fully naked in the car.
Oh, nice. I do always.
And because I wear the crops, and I've always often it towards the end of a run, I'll take my top off anyway. It doesn't bother me,
Yeah.
You're wearing a dress, pull your pants on. You're all good.
You got it sorted. Gosh, you've given this some thought. I love it. What are you most excited about? I know you said some of the goals you've got coming. What are you most excited about in the next 12 months or so with your running?
Sharing it with my oldest. So we're doing the Glow Run in next month as well, and I'm so excited to run that with him. Like he's my little supporter, and I just love watching him grow and watching him develop as a runner too. So it's just I don't know, something about that running sharing with him. Sharing those adventures and taking him off. Like I don't know.
That's in Devonport? Is that that one? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's very exciting.
Every night I get home, he's like, Mummy, is it time to go running in the dark?
Not yet.
Yeah, we do sometimes. Like, here's a headlight, off we go.
Oh, so how far is he running with you?
He has done up to 2K.
Okay. How far is the glow run? I don't even know.
600 meters for the kids.
Okay.
So he'll be fine. He did the mile at the Launceston half this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
He fell over twice and he got
Oh,
back up, no tears. And then towards the end, he was like, all right, I can't remember the kid's name, but there was a kid just behind us that we'd been going back and forth with. It's like, I got to beat him. And he just took off and he did.
Oh.
It's very cute.
They are so cute. Oh, I remember my kids, we used to do all those runs together. And then as they got older, like all the Bernie 10s and things like that. And then you very fondly remember the years that they suddenly start beating you instead of being
I'm
behind you.
kind of looking forward to that because at the moment, my biggest challenge is when I run with Josh. He runs shorter distances than me, but he runs close to a minute a K average faster. So I'll be like, all right, we'll go and do a 5K and he'll absolutely destroy me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to doing that with Ted because I reckon he'll go further.
Yeah. And then he'll destroy you over a 10 and then a 15.
Yeah, exactly.
Et cetera, et cetera.
No better way to get faster.
Actually, one of my favorite pictures from the running club is I went in the 2.5 in Evandale and my boys finished. They both saw me because they were obviously started behind me because they were already much faster than me then.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about they were older teenagers. But I beat them. But in the picture, you can see both of them just behind me. So they're both just coming up to catch me at the line. So anyway, that's one of my favorite pictures because
That's awesome.
The last time they were faster. Not that I was faster than them, but I did beat them to the line that day. I don't know that. Only in handicap running is that possible. Anyway, is there anything about running that you wanted to share with everybody that we haven't sort of touched on a little bit?
I don't think so. I think it's such a personal thing running. Like it's, I don't know. Like I know it's changed my life and it's put so much joy in my life and it's made me who I am today. But yeah, I don't know.
It's hard, isn't it? It's a bit like Quicksilver. You try and hold on to what is it about running that makes us all so fanatic about it? And you can feel it and you can sense it, but it's sometimes very hard to express.
You can't put your finger on it. Yeah.
And it's kind of like Quicksilver and it kind of floats away. You're like, oh, there it goes. It's kind of funny. Let me ask you this question then. Where do you think, or how do you think running has improved your life? You've kind of touched on it, I think, a lot all the way through. But if you hadn't started running, what do you think you'd be missing out on right now?
Everything I have.
Everything.
Yeah. I wouldn't have met my husband if I hadn't been a runner. I would never have moved to Tasmania.
Yeah.
So I'd probably still be quite sick with my eating disorder because that took, running really helped with that because, if you don't fuel, you can't run well.
Yeah.
And when I was at the top of my game, I had to really make sure I was eating enough and looking after myself and everything. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't have anything that I've got now if it wasn't for running. Even my dog, Reba, the 15-year-old, my dad made me get her because he didn't like that I was running on my own early in the morning. So he was like, you need a dog. So I wouldn't have even had her without it.
Wow. That's very cool. Tell me just a little bit more about the eating disorder and how running has helped that. I know that you said obviously nutrition-wise, because you realized once you started running, especially in ultras, that you had a bit of a talent for it. Your body seemed to enjoy it, so that nutrition-wise, that kind of made sense that you would follow through to make the most of it. But what other things were going on for you that where running helped in that way?
It made me strong. So running has given me a lot of strength and a lot of I guess, self-reliance.
Mhm.
Like it's made me very independent.
Mhm.
It's really made me a stronger person.
Yeah,
So because I do it, I feel like I can do anything.
I love that. Yeah, that sense of self and
Yeah,
who you are, and that you, as you said, that you're strong enough to take on anything that life throws at you.
yeah. Like,
Mm.
I'm not reliant on anyone but myself when I'm outside. And
Mm.
um, yes, I like to have my support crew and all of that there, but if I didn't have them, I could still do it. It's just
Mm.
a nice to have.
Yeah, yeah. So it's that very empowering sort of feeling that you get
Yeah,
when it's all in the flow, and um what is it, what's the word, when you're self-centered, like you don't need
yeah,
all of the other anything else, you know that you're fine as you are without
yeah,
anything extra. That makes sense.
yeah.
But
Self-reliant, independent,
yeah, all
and
those. Yeah,
strong.
I love that. When I was in the first few years of my running, and when I used to work in Launceston, we live about 20 k's out of town. The first time I ran into town, I had that kind of,
Yeah,
wow, this is a distance that I only would ever drive. I drive to work, but now I'm running to work, and it's this
yeah,
large distance, and I remember having that sense of empowerment, I suppose, that if I can travel this distance under my own steam, then there's nothing I can't do.
yeah.
Should I really want to? It was that kind of
Yeah,
feeling.
well,
Which
that's what it comes down to. You got to want to.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, there has to be some reason that what is it? The carrot that's
yeah.
being dangled. What do you?
Usually it's a finisher's medal.
So that is a good question, and one that I ask people, and that is, when you're in those races, what's what are the things that you're thinking about in those last few Ks? When it's all like, I'm over this already. Is it the
Yeah, it
finish
hurts. This
line?
is
Is it the
bullshit.
medal? Is it the coffee? Is it the whatever your thing is at
It's
the end? What are you looking forward to the most when you get to
the
that?
finisher's medal.
The finisher's medal? Yeah,
Yeah,
you love those?
like my finisher's medals. And
No.
I usually come up with something I feel like eating,
Yeah.
which I do sometimes on my long runs as well. I'll be like, yep, I really want some palmy loaded fries. And that's all I'll think about for the next one.
And then does that stay with you? Because I sometimes find when I cross the line, because a long run, I've had times where I've said, okay, I want this, this, and this, and I'll make sure that my support crew has them there ready for me at those paces. Then when I get there, I'm like, actually, no, I don't want any of that stuff, right? It's like,
Yeah, no, it usually stays with me.
yeah.
Sometimes it's like, I want a cider. I don't care that it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I want a cider. But I won't have that until that night.
Yeah. You'll delay the gratification.
For that kind of thing, I will, if
Yeah.
it's not appropriate to have at the time. But
Yeah,
if
I
it's a
read,
race and I finish at midday, if that's what I want, that's what I'm having.
yeah. I did read in somewhere today, which reminded me of what you just said. It's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world.
Yeah, that's a good song. That's on my playlist too, that song.
Exactly. So even if it's 6 a.m., it's still 5 o'clock
5
somewhere.
o'clock somewhere.
That's right. You could have had your cider if you really wanted it. Which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it'd be a bit awkward dropping the kids off to daycare with cider on my breath though.
Yes, in that case, maybe not. Maybe not. All right, Felicity, it has been an absolute delight to chat with you. Before we go, though, any tips for beginner runners? If someone came up to you and said, Felicity, I want to start running, how do I do that? What would you tell them?
Couch to 5K, I think, is an
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
thing to do.
Uh-huh.
And also just don't compare.
Mm.
Don't compare to other people. Don't compare to your old self either. If you've been a runner previously and you're restarting,
Mm-hmm.
just be you. Run for the fun of it.
I love it.
And don't quit.
Yeah, that's really important. Don't quit.
Yeah.
Be consistent. It's always hard when you get started, isn't it? And then you just...
It is really hard. And I actually found after Tolly, after my second one was born, consistency, like when I actually started, I went, right, he was born in May, and I ran very sporadically until September. And then September I went, right, I'm running every day. It doesn't matter if it's only a K, I'm running every day.
Yeah.
And I held that until about May this year. when my oldest had an asthma attack, and we had a few too
few
many
days,
issues for me to actually get out and do it. Obviously the kids always come first, so that consistency, just going, right, doesn't matter if it's a K, I'm running every day. Sometimes my run was more of a walk, but I got out and I did it.
And that is what made the difference. Between now, you're about to run another ultra. A very, very long one.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, you'll be fine. I just remember when I first did my first marathon, anyone who then talked about doing more than one marathon in a year just seemed crazy to me.
I used to do the one a month. I used to do an ultra a month when I was at the peak, which was insane. I don't know how I recovered that well, but I always did, and I always got back out.
And now I suppose you don't need to then train for the next one because you're already pretty trained up from the last one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Including the actual race. The last one.
Well, the races were training.
Yeah, that's crazy. And a great way to think about it. That's one of the things doing this podcast. I've talked to lots of people who do ultras, and it's like they just talk about the distance and how amazing it is to run those distances. And then they talk about how they might do 3 or 4 of them or more in a year, and we're talking about the 100-milers and I just think, wow, that is such a different mindset from the traditional kind of road marathon mindset.
It becomes a lifestyle. Really.
And it's a reasonably healthy lifestyle.
There's worse addictions.
But it is a bit of an addiction at the same time, all rolled together. I love it. All right. It has been a delight, as I said, to chat with you, Felicity. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story. It's been very powerful.
No worries.
And I will talk to you soon.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. I'd love to talk to you about your running journey. So send me a message on Facebook or on the website, and let's do it. For a bunch of resources on mindful running that will help you get and stay mentally and physically fit, head over to the website fitmindfitbody.co, and I'll see you there. Plus, I'll be back here in your podcast player a few times a week. Hit subscribe now so that you don't miss an episode. And before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review. It'll help more people to find the podcast and get inspired to start running. I'll see you soon. Bye.